Now, we're going to move on in our show today. We're going to move on to accessible gaming. Now, just a little bit of a kind of reminder, a little bit of a heads up on this. In a moment, we're going to be playing a video, just a brief kind of demonstration of an audio game. And we'll have that coming up in just a couple of minutes' time. But if you have a set of headphones, good stereo headphones, it will be handy to have them useful, or handy to have them to hand and ready to use for that demonstration, because the stereo element of it is actually something that's quite important. So if you do happen to have a good pair of stereo headphones, you might want to lay your hands on that and plug them in, and we'll get to see why that's of use in a moment. Now, maybe we could get our panel back again, and we'll have a little bit of a chat about accessible gaming. I don't know how many of you would call yourself gamers. Any gamers on the panel?
Not since I was a young lad where the games involved jumping over boxes and collecting coins. I think that's not sophisticated enough for a lot of people.
Yeah, the same.
Yeah, I'd be about the same as well. What was your first gaming experience? I remember the ZX81. Anybody ever have a ZX81 using games on it?
I had the Amstrad CPC 464, so it's kind of like
exact same one, Sean, yeah.
It's a very similar. Both used BASIC, and you had to load from games from tape and
cassette. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! It's all your patience.
I had a Commodore 64. It was an unusual one. I had a not the cassette. No, the other guy, cartridge.
Yeah.
He was a rare one.
You were very fancy.
I remember that. Yeah. That was what we only dreamed of when we had this.
Because I look at kids now when they're on their iPads and their tablets and they're playing games, and it comes on instantly, and then they download a new game next instantly.
Yeah.
Well, we had to load from cassette, which took an hour and a half for a semi-decent game.
I had the exact same as you, Sean. I had an Amstrad and loaded games like Manic Miner or Gauntlet, and I remember it would take so long with the cassette. I mean, you could put a cassette in, and you could go off, play a game of football, come back, and then you come back and it'll say turn over the cassette and part two. That's if the game worked.
I had forgotten about that. Yeah.
Syntax error in loading your game.
The sounds of one of those things loading still haunts me. Such a screech. Oh man! Anybody ever have one of the old Atari consoles? I remember having the Atari 2600.
My friend had one.
It's absolutely huge. Put like 3 or 4 laptops together, and you pretty much have the Atari, which could just about handle. Was it Pong? Was that it?
Yeah, which ties into Microsoft Air Hockey later on, which is basically Pong. But the Atari 2600, like I said, it was huge, and it had wood paneling on it. It was like a piece of furniture rather than a home games console.
It was, yeah, a decoration choice. Decoration choice. Yeah.
Very late 70s, early 1980s.
Yeah, that's it.
Didn't even do a dog boxer, it would ended up in the fire.
That's it. Yeah. I don't know about you. I haven't particularly used any kind of gaming console for quite a while. I think the most recent one I had was the first Xbox, so that tells you how much into gaming I am. Well outdated with it, but it is something that's so big these days. I mean, even if somebody isn't really into the big immersive games that can last for hours and hours, I mean, even just the small games on smartphones and things like that, people are well into it these days, aren't they?
So that's kind of the point of like the subject people sort of want to talk about today, because whether it's kids or adults, like we all know people who are sitting in the backseat of a car or on a bus, and just to spend 10 minutes killing time, they're sick of reading the newspaper that day, to play a 5-minute game or a 10-minute game, whether that's a word-based game, whether that's an audio-based game like we discussed now, or number-based games, whatever the case may be. Sighted people very easily can whittle away 5 minutes and do those games. So there is a market emerging now where there's games built for visually impaired people in mind.
Yeah.
And it just allows you that kind of same thing of like, oh well, I've got 5 minutes on this bus, or I'm in a car journey for 45 minutes, and I might want to play a little game here in the back. It's just kind of things like that. That's just that everyone else might do, and you might like or you may not like. It's just it's available.
Yeah, and that's what we're kind of about, really, is to see what's available. When we're talking about games, are some of these kind of mainstream games, are the big ones, particularly accessible for people with a vision impairment?
Definitely, there's major improvements recently for low vision, for the low vision end of it. So like I said, you're talking about Microsoft and PlayStation, on their latest consoles, they're adding accessibility features like you can increase the text size, you can zoom in on the menus. Some of the menus now, a screen reader will read them. And I happened to see a video recently where the latest game, which I think it's called The Last of Us, and this is the second game, and they have made sure that all parts of that game is accessible from a screen reader point of view. Now, you still need to be low vision enough to play it, but anytime text comes on the screen or a menu comes on the screen, all of that is read aloud. I've seen a video of someone who was playing it there recently who has low vision and it does enjoy games, and they actually, because it was so accessible, they got really emotional. They actually broke down crying that it was one of the first games that was completely accessible to them. Now, in terms of having no vision, those sort of graphical based games still can't be played, but that's why there's alternatives emerging, and it's very early days in that market. And I think in 2 or 3 years' time, there could be really complex games for people without any vision. But
so, what are some of those alternatives? Like I think we mentioned already, audio games. What's that about?
So audio games is like where you'd have as you mentioned earlier on, it's best to have a stereo headset. So like you'd be listening for sounds coming from left or right, or panning from left to right, passing your best bit, what would be your peripheral, and kind of like a sound stage kind of thing, and like you can react to that as you go. There's games like Endless Runners, where your character basically runs down an endless road.
Yeah.
So if you heard sound coming from the left hand side, you'd swipe to the right to avoid it.
Okay.
If you heard sound coming from the right hand side, you'd swipe to the left to avoid it there. If you heard sound coming from the bottom, like where it's panning down lower, you can swipe up to jump over an obstacle. And they're actually quite interesting games, and it has that kind of high score mentality of like, well, I got 200 last time, can I beat that? Can my friend beat me in that? So
very good.
That's where the audio end of it would come.
Yeah, very good. So it is actually quite an interesting kind of genre of game in itself. It's got kind of a particular skill that's involved with it. Now, probably the best way to let people know what we're talking about here is to actually maybe play a bit of a demonstration of one. So just as we're lining up this video, we've got a little bit of a video here, just going through the gameplay of a game called Microsoft Ear Hockey. So Ear, E-A-R, Hockey. And this is one that does rely on that idea of the audio feedback that you get in a pair of stereo headphones, as you'll see as we're going through this game. Now, the idea of this, as well, as we mentioned earlier, it's a little bit like Pong that was on the old Atari games, kind of like a block tennis sort of thing, table tennis perspective, maybe just the concept of the game, if you like. But just have a listen to this and see what you think. Okay, so we've already downloaded Microsoft Ear Hockey from the Microsoft Store. And we're just going to start that up in a moment. But just to let you know, right from the start here, that Ear Hockey has its own voice engine. So it's going to be talking back to us as we're going through this. It's not going to be using a separate screen reader. It's not going to be using JAWS or NVDA. Now, they would be working away if I leave them on, and I'd end up with two voices. So I'm not going to use a separate screen reader here. I'm just going to let the game talk back to us so that we get a clear idea of what's happening in the game, and we're not having to listen to two voices. Of course, if you want to start off this game and using your screen reader, you can go ahead and do that the same way as usual. You can go to your start menu, you can type in Ear Hockey, press enter, and it'll start up for you, and you could turn off your screen reader at that point. But I'm just going to start this up now, and we'll just get the opening screen here, and you'll hear that coming in.
This is an audio-based game and is better enjoyed with headphones. to select one player menu.
Okay, so you've heard there that we're on the main menu and we can use the up and down arrow key to move us through that menu. Just a quick note, you will have heard in the intro there that it said this game is best enjoyed using headphones. The reason for that is that you're actually using the stereo aspect of the headphones. So in a moment when we're hearing sounds, we will hear sounds either to the left or to the right, and that will help us in our gameplay. The whole idea of this game is that you've got like a paddle or a bat that you're going to hit a ball with, and you're going to choose which direction you move that bat based on the sound, whether you're hearing the sound in your left ear or your right ear. So you need to have stereo headphones to be able to hear that properly. Now, just before we give you a tutorial, let's just go up and down through the main menu. She said that I can use the up and down arrows here. So we're on one player menu at the moment. Let's press down.
Two-player menu.
So we have two-player menu, down again.
Tutorial.
We have a tutorial. We're going to go into that in a second, but I'll just press down one more time.
Exit.
Exit is the last option on this main menu. So let's go back up using the up directional key to tutorial, and we'll go into that using the enter key.
Tutorial.
And enter.
Tutorial. During certain parts of the tutorial, you will be locked in place. If you wish to quit the tutorial at any point, press the backspace key. You are a paddle placed on one end of a rectangular court. There is a ball at the center of the court. Listen to how the sound changes when the ball approaches you. Press the spacebar to launch the ball toward you.
So there's the description of the game. It's telling us that to start us off, we just need to use the spacebar. So that's all I'm going to do.
Good job. This sound means you've hit the ball and it has bounced away from you. Now the ball will approach you to the right. Using the left and right arrow keys, move toward the right side of the court.
So again, nice and easy instructions. I'm just going to move towards the right-hand side of the court using the right direction key.
Good job. You are in front of the ball. The ball will now be launched towards you. Next, the ball will approach all the way to the right. Move to the right until you hit the sidewall.
So we keep moving to the right now. The point of this is just to hear the audio feedback as we hit the very right wall.
This sound means you've hit the sidewall and can't go any farther in that direction. The ball will now be launched towards you. Now, move back toward the center line of the court where you started.
So again, listen for the audio feedback as I move back to the center of the court. So obviously, if I'm all the way to the right, I need to use the left direction key to move back.
This sound means you've crossed the center line of the court. If you hit the ball slightly off of center, it will rebound at an angle. Sometimes the ball will approach you at an angle as well. Press the spacebar to launch the ball at an angle.
So let's follow that instruction, press space.
This sound means the ball has hit the sidewall and rebounded. If the ball was approaching you to the left, it will now be moving to the right and vice versa. Press the spacebar to make the ball continue on its current path. This sound means the ball has moved to the other side of the court and has been hit by your opponent. This sends the ball towards your side again. You and your opponent will hit the ball back and forth until one player misses the ball, which will score a point for the other player. When a point is scored, gameplay stops and the ball is reset. Press the spacebar to play against the AI opponent.
So that's basically it. We've got our main controls here. The controls are easy enough, just using space and the direction arrows. The feedback that we're getting is the important part. The audio feedback, the different sounds once we hit the side of the court, once we hit the middle of the court, or else the ball either hits our bat, the opponent's bat, or the side of the court. So we've got a number of different sounds that give us that feedback. So after going through that tutorial, we have this option to go and play an AI, an artificial intelligence opponent. So let's try that AI opponent. We'll press the spacebar.
Press the spacebar to launch the ball towards you.
And we'll follow the normal instructions now, pressing spacebar and moving with the left and right direction keys.
job, you got a point. Press the spacebar to play again, or press the backspace key to return to the main menu.
So again, you're hearing all the feedback as it goes back and forth until you hear it. Stop it there at this point. Go.
Good job, you got a point. Press the spacebar to play again, or press the backspace key to return to the main menu.
We'll press the backspace key to return to the main menu.
Main menu. Use the up and down arrow keys to highlight menu options. Press the spacebar to select one player menu.
And each time we get back to the main menu, we get the same instructions again. So we're always reminded of how we can move through the main menu. Now we've had a look at the tutorial. Let's just have a brief look at the two-player menu. So I'm going to use the down key.
Two-player menu.
And press enter.
Two-player menu. Use the up and down arrow keys to highlight menu options. Press the spacebar to select. Find an online match.
So this is the two-player menu that it's bringing us through. Now there's a few different options here with the two-player menu. I'll just let you hear those as I go down through them. So she read out find an online match is the first one.
Play with a friend.
So you have an option to play against a friend.
Settings.
That's settings.
Main menu.
And then main menu would bring you back to where we were before. So let's just go through those options again. Find an online match.
Find an online match.
That means basically that we will play a match against somebody that we don't actually know. Now they're not an artificial intelligence, it's not like the game we've just played. It is a real person. It's playing over the internet. So going into that would automatically find an online match that we can play again. Now the second option here, if I press down,
play with a friend.
Instead of this being a stranger now, instead of it being somebody we don't know on the internet, we can actually play against somebody we do know. So we can create a match here and directly connect with a friend. So let's go into that. I'm going to press the space bar here.
Create a match.
And then we have a menu here to play against a friend. And we have just 3 options on this menu. So I'll let you hear that. She's already said create a match. If I press down here,
join a match.
Join a match, and then
two-player menu.
Two-player menu. Now the last option on these menus usually links you back just where you were before. So when it says two-player menu, it's just bringing you back to the last screen menu. So that leaves us with just create a match and join a match. Basically, they're 2 sides of the same coin. So if I create a match, my friend can join the match. Okay, or if my friend creates a match, I can join the match that they've created. So that's the 2 options that we have here. Let's just show you how you would do this. If I go into create a match, so I'll just go back up.
Join a match, create a match.
And this time I'm going to press enter to create a match.
Match created. Your PIN is 4086. Your friend can use this PIN to connect with you. Reread PIN.
So the PIN number that was read out there, 4086, that's the PIN I would now just maybe text to my friend, pass them on somehow this PIN number, 4086. And they would be able to use that PIN to be able to join this same match. They would do that by going to join a match. So a moment ago we went into create a match, but we said there was another option, join a match. Well, they would go to join a match and enter in this PIN that we've just had, 4086. Now, if we've heard it once, but we've just kind of forgotten it, or we didn't quite catch it, we've got the option here of rereading the PIN. So I'll press enter on that.
4086.
And it'll reread it for us, just so that we can make sure that we have the right. Now, I'm going to go back to the previous menu.
Two-player menu. A connection could not be established. Two-player menu.
And again, I'm going to go back.
To highlight menu options. Press the spacebar spacebar to select.
So we've already gone through these options, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to use the backspace this time.
Main menu. Use the up and down arrow keys to highlight menu options. Press the spacebar to select. One-player menu.
So the useful thing with this is that backspace will bring me back through the menus, and I can also use, when I'm selecting one of these options, it's either space, which mentions, or generally speaking, when I get onto an option that I want to activate, I can also use the enter key. So I'm just going to go through a very quick one-player menu. I've gone through the other options here, and I'm just going to go through the one-player action.
One-player menu. Use the up and down arrow keys to highlight menu options. Press the spacebar to select. During gameplay, the visual display will be off by default. To turn it on, go to the settings menu. Start game.
So just what she's mentioned here, that the visual display will be off. So in a moment, I'm just going to start the game here. All the visual display will completely disappear. And really, that's the point of this game, is that you're using your ears, the sounds, to be able to play the game. And you're not relying on visual feedback at all. So I'm going to leave that way, just to give a proper sense of the gameplay here. But if you wanted to turn the graphics back on and the visual side of things back on, you can go into the settings and change that. And settings is just press down once here.
Settings.
And there's settings. I can go into that by pressing enter. We're not going to do that at the moment because we want to just get proper gameplay experience. So I'm going to go to start game.
Start game.
And press space.
0-0. The first player to score 7 points wins the game. Press the spacebar to launch the ball toward you. The ball will be launched toward the player who lost the previous point.
So let's just play a couple of points here just to give you a sense of this. And again, you'll get the best kind of sense of this if you're using headphones. So let's just go ahead and launch the ball using space. So just using left and right.
1-0. You are in the lead. Press the spacebar to launch the ball.
So again, press the spacebar.
1-1. The game is tied. Press the spacebar to launch the ball.
A little bit tricky here because you're trying not to really hit the ball just pure center. You want to hit it slightly off to the side to give you an angle to the ball, and it can get a little bit of getting used to it. It can take a little bit of getting used to it.
1-2. Your opponent is in the lead. Press the spacebar to launch the ball. 2-2. The game is tied.
So we've got a bit of a sense of it there. So we'll just press backspace here.
One-player menu. Use the up and down arrow keys to highlight menu options. Press the spacebar to select. During gameplay, the visual display will be off by default. To turn it on, go to the settings menu. Start game.
So we're back to the one-player menu. Now, at any point here, I can either backspace and go back through the menus, or what I'm going to do at the moment is I'm going to press escape.
Are you sure you want to quit the game? Quit the game.
Which allows me to quit the game, or else I can, if it was a mistake, I can press down.
Keep playing.
And keep playing, but I'm going to
quit the game
here. So that gives a sense of what Microsoft ear hockey is all about. It's really trying to make sure that your gameplay just relies on the audio feedback that you get back through a pair of stereo headphones. You can use your directional keys. Very good. So that gives a bit of a sense of Microsoft ear hockey. So hopefully you were able to get a bit of a sense of that if you had headphones on. Now, it may not have come through on Teams. We know that when we were testing it earlier, it was coming through in stereo. So hopefully you had an experience of that.
Yeah, like when you're playing it through your own earphones, it's very balanced and the sound comes through very clean. I think because we're streaming over the net and compressing it through for Teams, it kind of removes some of that stereo sound.
Yes, yeah. Okay.
But definitely, if you try it.
So if somebody didn't hear it over this, do try it out. It's well worth a try. I would imagine. Does the quality of the headphones make much difference there, Sean?
No, like any headphones will work. Better the headphones, the bigger sound stage you will get. But I mean, like most headphones with stereo, you're going to hear the sound in one rather than the other, or a combination for that panning effect.
Yeah.
I mean, but that is quite a simple Pong-based game where you are listening for the ball coming at you. You're moving your paddle towards it. If you hear it bouncing off a wall, you might have to move it in another direction. So you are following the sound. But definitely
audio cues all the time.
Always audio cues.
Yeah, very good. And that's quite a good one just to get a feel of what we're talking about when we're mentioning audio games. But there are other ones out there, other specific games that are out there that are specifically designed with blind users in mind. Would there be any other ones that you'd kind of recommend people trying?
Well, I do think the audio ones are very good. I mean, I was playing that game, Fear, F-E-E-R. And that's like where you're running down and you have to watch out for obstacles and you listen for something attacking you from one side and you swipe to the other. So that is quite good. But I know like text adventure games used to be popular in the late 80s, early 90s, where it was like a role-playing game where it would give you information on the screen, and then you would sort of type in an action to see how that would what would come of that. And those sort of games are available now on things like your Amazon device.
Very good.
So like on Echo, you can play like those role-playing games, those action adventure games, and I believe there's even one called Baker Street Experience on the Echo, where it's like a mixture of an interactive radio play, where it's a Sherlock Holmes mystery where it acts out part of the mystery, and then you choose what happens next. So you sort of control how the story progresses and whether you solve the crime or don't solve the crime. And there's all sorts of sort of games like that there.
Do you know, I remember games like that on the Spectrum, when we had a Spectrum. I remember those kind of text-based games. So you're saying that basically we were way ahead of our time back then.
Exactly. So now the text-based games have become audio-based games where, like I said, there's all, Alexa is full of them. There's all sorts of games where you can have these adventures on, or mystery games where you have to solve the mystery by interacting with the actual Alexa device.
Yeah, very good. Any other ones that you'd mention? Any other ones that maybe the rest of the panel have heard of?
A few suggestions for the smart speaker would be ones like there's the Magic Door, which is a very good interactive adventure game. It's available on your Echo and Google Home, depending on which smart speaker you have. So that's kind of like like adventure games where you have different scenarios you can choose to go into a forest or sea or whatever it is, and you solve riddles. That's the idea behind that. Probably more suited to kind of younger people. It's also a good to try on your smart speaker. It's a song quiz. So it just plays a song and you have to guess the title and the artist, but it goes to different genres as well. It goes to you get 60s or 70s, 80s music, or that kind of thing. And then there's a very good one, it's called Alkinator as well. It's Alkinator, if I pronounce that right. And the idea behind this is that you think of a celebrity in your head, and then your Amazon Echo will ask you questions to see if it can guess that person. And the idea with this is that it'll get it in hopefully under 20 questions. So it's a good one to try. It's a bit of fun.
That's actually a good like parlor type game, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I know we do have on our weekly newsletter, we do try to include kind of tips, things to do try on your Amazon Echo or Google Home, but we often have games included, so you should check that out as well.
Would you be able to give us a demonstration of that, JP?
Yeah, you know what, I might be able to. I have a Amazon Echo here, so I could try it.
She's never far away.
I'll try it. This is Alkinator, and it's a free game that's available on your Amazon Echo. So I'm going to think of a celebrity. Well, I'll think of the President of America. I'll think of Donald Trump.
This is dangerous stuff here, dude.
Yeah, controversial here, isn't it? So let's just see how it goes. Okay, so I'm going to say, Alexa, play Alkinator.
Hi, I'm Akinator. I can read your mind. Think of a character. I will try to guess it. Are you ready?
Yes.
Is your character a girl?
No.
Is your character over 27 years old?
Yes.
Is your character American?
Yes.
Has your character really existed?
Yes.
Well. Is your character an actor?
No.
Is your character black?
No.
Is your character a YouTuber?
No.
Well. Has your character been the president of a country?
Yes.
Ha! Does your character want to build a wall?
Yes, he does.
Okay. Is your character the oldest amongst their siblings?
Yes.
I guess that you are thinking of Donald Trump Jr. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes, I guess right. Do you want to play again?
No.
Thanks for playing.
Oh, there we go.
Well.
Well. So there's little colloquialisms in there. So we'll grab it. Yeah. In the end, you can have a bit of fun with these kind of games.
Yeah. It didn't take too many guesses.
Some of the quizzes on the likes of your Google Home and Alexa, they can be quite good as well. Particularly maybe if you have a small group of people around, now that we are slightly more unrestricted in our COVID-19 days.
Yeah, I really like the quiz one on the Google Assistant where she pretends to be a quiz show host, and I actually think it's actually done quite well. It's actually very funny.
Yeah. It sounds like there's a fair few options out there. Obviously, it's like there's a way for it to go still, but there's actually a few options there already.
Like in terms of low vision, like they're always going to be improving, larger screens, putting in screen readers, voicing menus for those graphical based games. But for games with for people with no sight, like where you are sort of, there's audio based games, there's these text adventures, there's number based games, or there's word games. So I think they'd all sort of need to be combined into different. Like part of it could be an audio bit, and then you have to answer a question, and a part of it could be, a number riddle, or a part of it could be you choose what happens next, and then have to play a bit using the sound.
Yeah.
Because there's even games where like there's a blind assassin, it's called, JP, or
blind assassin. Yeah, it's very good. I haven't tried it now myself, but it's
I tried that a few years ago, and it's something you'd wear earphones, and it would create that sort of 3D sound. And I think your daughter leads you on an adventure. Your swordsman has lost his sight.
Yeah.
And then when you hear people attacking you, it comes from a certain
that's
side.
Right. Is it a blind legend, John, by any chance?
Blind legend, that's what
Yeah. I figure as you were describing it, I was trying that actually over the last couple of days. It is very good. And like that, you are. I think I think the idea behind this game is that it's a blind knight, and set back in the 1300s, his wife is captured, and his daughter is trying to lead the knight who's blind to the wife. So you're following the daughter with kind of swipes on your screen. So actually, as I was playing it there last day or two, just to see what the game was like, because there's a lot of hype about it. And I have to say, it's kind of addictive. Actually, you kind of get into it, and suddenly a half hour goes by, and you're there on your phone. There's no visual at all with this game, but it's just very addictive. Yeah, I was there with my earphones on and just playing away, and it doesn't use voiceover either.
Yeah, there's a fair variety of different types. So, if we were kind of revisiting this conversation in 5-10 years' time, like what does the future of audio gaming look like as far as you can see yourselves, or what would you kind of imagine it to be?
Well, it would have to become a bit more complex. Like the games now are quite simple, so that's why I think like combining the different types of games you can have into a bigger adventure. Because at the minute, like with that one there, you're just walking through, and sort of attacking people with your sword if and when needs be. Other games is just like you're answering questions, and other games is like just listening out for sound cues. I think when they start combining them into like a bigger game, it offers game developers more of a platform to give you more, of a variety in terms of the type of game they can give you.
Yeah, interesting. So in a way, we're almost at that point of the old Spectrums and Amstrads and things like that, where they were in gaming terms and where they've come to now.
Exactly.
As kind of grown and built and in complexity and everything. So similar sort of path, you reckon?
Mm-hmm. I think so, because I mean, if Microsoft Air Hockey there is basically Pong, and how far those games have come, I mean, it just takes clever developers and people with good ideas to kind of implement that in an interesting way that people haven't thought of before.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because of the limitations of Teams here, we weren't able to give you that in full stereo. So we do recommend people try and look up audio games, try them on your phone, put in a pair of earphones, go onto your laptop and download Microsoft Air Hockey, and give it a go. Like the interesting thing. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, just on the Air Hockey, that was all controlled by keyboard and the arrows.
Yeah.
And if somebody, I'm just thinking out of the box here, maybe somebody had, a USB gamepad or something like that. I wonder how would it sync up with that?
Well, there's no reason why it couldn't. It may not be implemented yet, but I mean that's the kind of feedback these developers want. And the thing about Microsoft Air Hockey, it was developed in Microsoft Garage. So Microsoft Garage is like if you work a 40-hour week, they say that you can put 5 hours a week towards your own projects.
Yeah.
You're kind of own innovations, and that's where Microsoft Garage is where Seeing AI came from.
Yeah.
Are you sure now it's Microsoft Garage? I'm sure I heard Microsoft Garage.
Oh, Garage. Garage band or Garage band.
Yeah, but it is interesting just to kind of think about where it could be, and it's kind of one of those watch this space things, isn't it? Because it's interesting what's there at the moment, but it's going to get better.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting that Microsoft Garage has the people have spent their time developing Seeing AI, and another group has developed Microsoft Hockey. So the people are taking their time out, and they are coming up with innovations and different things for the sight loss community, and I think that's a great thing. So
and to be fair, it's decent stuff too, isn't it, Sean?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, but they're always looking for feedback. I mean, that's what, if you got that Air Hockey game, and like as you said, Daniel, maybe that works better with a controller. Tell them that they should have a controller access. If you think that you should be able to turn the music off while you're playing the game, that's another thing. If you think, everyone wants feedback on what they're doing, and everything gets better with feedback. If we just let this stuff kind of sit there and not use it at all, it will never improve.
Yeah.
Good point.
I think that's a good kind of takeaway point from the whole show, to be honest, because we mentioned that earlier with the readout feature on the iOS.
Yeah, like if you like that, it's good to say if you think an app isn't working, or you think a website isn't working, and why the website isn't working because things aren't labeled. I mean, you can send them a message and say, this is how you improve it, and this is why I need it improved. If no one's told, they don't know to improve it.
Yeah, very good. Well, it's been interesting just to chat about that, and certainly we've had a bit of an enjoyable time ourselves in testing out some of the games for this one.
And
so it's
I noticed how you quit there when you got to a draw match, Jude.
Say again.
You quit the game when you just got to draw a match.
It's like the end. It's like the end into Rocky 2. Nobody knows who won in the fight.
Yeah, that's it. I really wanted to say I'll quit when I'm ahead, but I just didn't really get there, so I couldn't. It was going to go on another 20 minutes, I think, if I was to wait for that. So.
When you're from Mayo, I think a draw is as good as a win.
Well, on that note, I'm glad that Brian isn't here. I'd never be able to cope. Very good. So I think we'll leave it there. That is definitely the point where we should leave this conversation alone. And thanks very much to our panel.